It is day 108, and so it is time to talk about housing, which is on everyone's mind, it seems. This week, some major announcements were made by the political parties running in this election around housing. Yesterday, David Kuhn made an announcement for the Greens with our essentially our official five goals, our commitments in our party platform if we are to be elected and to form government. And so you hear all this talk. I just finished a CBC interview with a reporter about homelessness in St. Stephen, specifically some of the events that have been happening here around the last year. And so you are hearing promises, you could say, from parties about how we are going to address the housing crisis. And that's what it is. It's not just a shortage of housing, it is an absolute crisis. So you're hearing on a provincial level what is being promised. But it's also important for you to know, as a resident of Saint Croix, if I'm elected your MLA, what is it that I start working on? On October 22nd, how do I start talking to people who are going to be able to help us navigate and get out of this crisis when it comes to solving issues around homelessness, affordable housing, and then housing for all. And so I want to talk about that over the next few days, starting with where we are. Now, there's two things that we know that are very important when we listen to housing experts, when you listen to people who study this and research this day in and day out. And what we know is that market housing will never sufficiently address the affordability issue. And what I mean by market housing, so this is kind of our starting point. Market housing is just a private developer comes along, buys some land, builds a house, whether that's just one standalone housing unit or a duplex or multiple unit dwelling. They purchase that, they get the capital somehow, borrowed or through equity, and then they use that money to purchase all the materials and everything necessary to get that building up. And then, of course, they sell the house to an owner, and that owner may become a landlord by renting or subletting or that kind of thing. So that is market housing. And so when we say market housing will never be able to address the affordability issue, what housing experts say is you can offer incentives as a government to help keep those things low, but at the end of the day, they are going to follow market trends. And so, as we have seen over the past many years, if the housing market starts to increase drastically for any number of reasons, then it is very likely that owners or developers will try to get as much money as they can out of that build, out of that home. And that is why you are just not going to see affordable housing fall out of the market housing sector of housing. What we need to do then, if we know that, is realize that we need to create affordable housing. Affordable housing essentially has to be created within the market with government policy. And I know that is difficult to accept if you're a libertarian, but I mean the proof is in the results that we see. Like I say, market housing, we've just given up. That is, you're never going to have drastically affordable housing in the way that our society works, the way that our market works, when housing is an investment commodity. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that I want to unpack over the next couple of days, in the sense that if we start talking about that, we need to create affordable housing with regulation, with measures that multiple levels of government can undertake. Well, an MLA and your provincial government is a key factor in that, in those areas where you live. And so right from the beginning of my campaign, fingers 1 and 2 here, I've been talking about affordable housing, which, a recap, if you're just joining us, is rent protections for people who rent. So we want to see affordable rents. About in terms of New Brunswick, about 25, just north of 25% of households are rental households. Okay. And about, again, the rest, 75-ish percent, 73% are owners, home owners. Okay, so if that is the mix that we're talking about, we need to make sure that we have adequate rights and protections for renters. Now, at the same time, we do have property owners, people who own their homes, and we desperately need property tax reform for, excuse me, I should not have had a shake right before going live. We need property protections, tax reform for property owners. So that is the piece of, like I say, the number one finger here has been about people who are in their homes. We need to help them to continue to afford their homes and stay in their homes if they would like to. So I want to unpack policies around what the Greens are saying and how that will translate to us in Saint Croix. And then the other piece, housing for all, is very important in knowing that we need a warming center for people who are homeless. And again, we need to address this. We need to get back to zero when it comes to homelessness. No one should be living rough or out on the street at all. That is a failure of government. When we see that, you just look at it and we have not created, because affordable housing needs to be created. It needs to be given a space. It needs to be intentionally focused on. You can't just say, oh well, that's the market. That's completely unacceptable, because that the market will never take care of that. It takes government work. It takes focus on that and intentionality. So when we're seeing the amount of homelessness we are seeing just a failure of government on its face. You can just take that to the bank. That's not the right analogy in this case. We need to see more detox centers. So again, for people who are facing addiction crises, they need to get the help they need right away. That's more inpatient service. That's more residential detox programs as well. Right now, I've mentioned it before, we only have a total of something like 34 beds in the entire province for long-term rehab centers. So we need detox centers, we need rehab centers, we need the nursing home situation sorted out here in our riding. Okay, so these are folks who we need to see housed, complex care, people who can't take care of themselves in their homes. And so that is essentially the major pieces of getting people housed, and keeping it affordable. The CMHC defines affordable housing as spending 30% of your pre-tax income on your housing. And so when you talk about affordable housing, that's what it means, and that's what we absolutely need here in Saint Croix. So tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the NB Housing, which is the corporation for a housing strategy in New Brunswick. I want to talk about NB Housing's plan, which is a 10-year plan. I want to talk about ways that the Auditor General has said it needs work, shortfalls. And then, of course, the Green government and how we see that we can address some of the ways that, and NB Housing is the people who work there, the public servants there are doing amazing work, but it is a matter of proper government policy, listening to housing experts, and finding out what we need to implement in a crisis situation, which we are in. And we are not going to build our way out of this crisis because it just takes too long. So those are the two pieces. We need to create affordable housing, and we need a different plan than just market housing and building new units. That needs to be a key part of it, but there's so much more. And that's why I'm taking so long today, and I just got to do a hard out now. So I will see you tomorrow. We'll continue this conversation. It is Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you tomorrow.